In this experiment, we are going to study the effect of molecular polarity on the miscibility of some liquids. More specifically, we're going to study water, we are going to study different organic alcohols with different chain lengths, which means with a different number of carbon atoms. That is methanol that has one, ethanol that has two carbon atoms, you can see the formulas there, one propanol that has three carbons, and butanol that has four carbon atoms. And we're also going to be looking at pentane, which is a very common hydrocarbon. It's a non-polar molecule. And one way to express what we are going to study in lay terms is the principle of like dissolves like. And some people refer to that as oil and water don't mix, because of course water and oil are very different. Okay, in this first experiment, what we are going to study is the miscibility of different liquids based on molecular polarity. What we have is three test tubes ready with some liquids. More specifically, we have water in the first two and methanol in the third one. Both water and methanol are fairly polar liquids, and so what we are going to be adding is methanol to the first one. The first one had water and methanol. The second one is going to be water with pentane. You can see the labels there. So we are now adding some pentane to the test tube that contains some water. And to the third and last test tube, we're going to be adding some pentane. Now, these are all colorless liquids, and so in order to visualize the mixing or not of these liquids, we're going to use food coloring. Food coloring, red dye in this case, dissolves very well in water. It's a very polar molecule, it dissolves in water, polar dissolves polar. And so what we are doing is now adding 1 or 2 drops of food coloring to the water methanol mixture. We do a little shaking, a little mixing, and you can see that the color distributes really well in the test tube. What means is that the two liquids are miscible, it forms a homogeneous solution, and the dye, the red color, goes completely distributed to all the liquid. The second one is water and pentane. They don't mix, but that's going to be a lot easier to see with the food coloring. We have the food coloring there. We're going to do a little bit of shaking, see if they mix, trying to mix them, but you can see that they don't mix at all. Of course, pentane and water are very different. Water is very polar, pentane is not polar at all. And so they don't mix, and you see the two phases, the two liquids don't mix at all. And the third experiment is pentane and methanol. So we're going to add, again, food coloring to the methanol pentane mixture. It's a little drop there. We do the shaking. And takes a little longer, but once it settles, you can see that pentane and methanol do not mix. One of the liquids is completely colorless. It has no dye on it, no red color, whereas the other one has the pink color from the food coloring. Okay, in a second set of experiments, we're going to be studying the effect of chain length, right, the number of carbon atoms for these organic alcohols, on the miscibility of these alcohols with water. Again, water is a very polar solvent, and these alcohols with increasing length of carbon chains are going to be becoming increasingly non-polar, increasingly different from the water. And so what we have in this second set of 3 test tubes are already samples of water and water. We need to add drop of food coloring to each one. Those all contain water, so clearly they are going to mix. That's not going to be a problem. It doesn't take much shaking to get a really nice mixture. You can see all the liquid is pink. That's food coloring and water. No problems there. And now, in this second set of experiments, what we are going to do is add alcohols. Ethanol to the first one, that's what we are doing right now, adding ethanol to the water. We'll see what happens when we do some shaking. Takes a little more shaking than before, but the liquids are clearly mixing. It's all a nice even color, it's all pink, and that implies that the liquids mix. The liquids mix, and of course the food coloring goes into the mixture. The second one, we are adding propanol, 1 propanol, as you can see. That's the shaking of the test tube that contains water and propanol, 1 propanol. Maybe they are mixing a little bit. I think I see a fade pink color on the upper layer that you see of the liquids, but for the most part they are not mixing. Now we're going to try the experiment with butanol. 1 butanol is the least polar of these 4 organic alcohols. So we are adding some butanol to the test tube that contains water with food coloring. And you can see that the butanol is not really mixing with the water. They form 2 different phases, and the pink color from the food, the pink color from the food dye, food coloring, stays with the aqueous phase, with the water layer that is at the bottom of the test tube. Just for reference, the methanol experiment is the first one we did, and it's still there, and it was a completely homogeneous mixture. Okay? And so you can see methanol and ethanol mix very well, propanol maybe just a little bit, and butanol definitely not. And that's the effect of molecular polarity on the miscibility of liquids.